Autism is a condition that is often discussed, though little understood. On today's program, we will explore causes, conditions, and treatments. Stay tuned for the heart of the matter. When a child is diagnosed with autism, for parents and caregivers, it often raises more questions than it answers. The spectrum of the disorder is wide, and many treatment options are still in the exploratory stages. Donnie Rolls explores the current world of autism with this special report.
Meet 8-year-old autistic Michael Somnus. He's one of a rapidly growing number of children being diagnosed with autism.
He's a happy, bubbly little guy.
Michael's mom, Amanda.
He has some social emotional issues, doesn't do well in groups of people.
Michael is enrolled in the Minnesota Autism Center's new Rochester facility. The demand for their services is on the rise.
What's great about this room is that it's a contained room. This is another reinforcement room that provides computer opportunities. You know, this is another place for the children. They can come in here and have lunch and be typical children. East Minnesota.
Catherine Marshall is the executive director.
We can't keep up with the need for the one-on-one therapy in this area.
The number of kids being diagnosed with autism has skyrocketed in recent years. 1 out of every 110 kids has autism.
And our center opened in January, will probably be full by summer.
You may have been introduced to autism by the 1988 movie Rain Man.
Another check. Sorry about the toothpicks.
82, 82, 82.
82 what, Ray? How much is this?
Toothpicks.
It's a lot more than 82 toothpicks, Ray.
Plus 246 total.
Keep the change. Ray, how many toothpicks are you?
250.
Pretty close. Come on, let's go, Ray.
246.
There's 4 left in the box.
For all the criticisms of that, it brought awareness, but it didn't do harm to what we're trying to do today. When people say that's their basis, it's like, well, sure, yeah, welcome to autism.
But the mathematical genius played by Dustin Hoffman is not the norm when it comes to autism. In fact, there is no typical autistic person.
You gotta turn this way. Do this. Oh, good job. They're each their own individual child. You can't just use your same therapy style with each one.
Pat Walsh is a behavioral therapist for autistic kids at the center. Michael didn't want to wear our microphone, but he didn't tell us he's mostly nonverbal, so he showed us.
This clips right about there.
Yeah, and then this part is like stick. Maybe
it might not. The thing for me is you have to go to their world before they'll come to yours. One little guy I was under a table doing therapy with, because that's where he wanted to do his therapy, was under a train table. But once we built that up and he was willing to come back and work in a more structured setting, you have to kind of get in their head a little bit.
Autism has a large spectrum. Some high-functioning autistics may be talented computer programmers. Others can't communicate or take care of themselves. The Minnesota Autism Center's all-day program provides one-on-one therapists like Patrick for kids like Michael.
Our biggest deciding factor was it's one-on-one. There's a home component piece, which you can't get with the public schools. So what they teach him here, they also teach us as parents, so that you get that consistency. It helps us as a family too. So.
Balloon or bubbles?
It's a program that looks at the deficits that each child has on an individual basis, and then programs to deal with those deficits. That it's a very intense program. The hope is that we reach best outcome for these children.
Boys are about 4 times more likely than girls to have it. Also, kids with autistic parents are more likely to have it. Some drugs taken during pregnancy, like thalidomide and valproic acid, have been linked to higher rates of autism. Marshall says the program makes a dramatic difference in the lives of the kids involved, which is exactly what Amanda Somnus is hoping for Michael.
Just initiating playing with other kids, just walking up to another child, initiating that, but just having them take that step and initiate that, and just tolerating being around other children and interacting with them, taking turns, sharing, communicating, those are big things that he doesn't do now very well, and it takes time, but hopefully in the future.
If you're a parent of an autistic child or just want more information, you can visit www.cdc.gov and search the word autism.
Thank you for that report, Donnie. In our studio today, we have two guests who will help us take a closer look at the heart of this matter. Please welcome Sue Wagner, parent of a child diagnosed with autism and a Mower County social worker. We also have educator Edie Penno from the AEA 267 in Iowa. Thank you so much, gals, for being here.
Glad to be here.
All right. Well, it seems like we have come a long way. We met Temple Grandin earlier, and she tells the story of about how in her day, when she was diagnosed, the doctor essentially laid the blame on her mother and said you didn't hug her enough or didn't show enough affection. And that was, 40, 50 years ago. Have we come a long way since then in terms of figuring out what causes autism?
Well, as most of us know, there's many different causes of autism. In some instances, probably even 10 years ago, when my child was diagnosed, there was still a tendency to blame something the parents did, whether it was their diagnosis or something in the environment, but you still felt like it was your fault.
Okay. And what of the theories that it's vaccines or it's other environmental influences that impact the child?
At this point in time, I would say in looking at the medical profession that they really haven't confirmed any one specific area to say this is, we definitely have our hand on what is causing children to be within that spectrum. I think Sue and I would both agree that depending on which doctor you talk to or who you go to, it might be a whole different approach. They might not even start out with stating that the child's on the spectrum. They may start out stating the child's ADHD or oppositional defiant or some other behavioral.
Or you had an interesting story of what
well, yes, they generally have several diagnoses, but yeah, we went through the genetic testing and everything else when he was young. Couldn't come up with something, and ultimately, the head of neurology at the Mayo Clinic told us he's just wired funky.
Just wired funky.
Yeah.
Hard to find a solution for that, but let's talk a little bit about when that diagnosis comes. Then what? Are there treatments? Are there methods of instruction? Are there what can you do to help these children keep progressing in their development?
I think one of the first things educationally looking at it, one of the first things when parents receive that diagnosis, at least some of the parents that I've worked with, one, it's kind of a relief of knowing why we're seeing what we're seeing. But then on the other hand, too, you have parents who, it's very hard to hear those words. And their questions are, what do we do now? Educationally, once a child has been diagnosed with being on the spectrum or a child with autism, it goes back to looking at do they need, what type of supports are they going to need? That's kind of where Iowa and Minnesota is a little bit different, in that Minnesota still is a categorical state, where Iowa is a non-categorical state. In other words, when we are looking at students who may qualify for special education services, we're looking at entitled individuals, and we really look at more of a discrepancy model. So a student who may be diagnosed with autism, what we would look at is those characteristics that that child is displaying or the needs that that child is displaying to determine is that child significantly discrepant from his peers or significantly discrepant in the skills that they're needing to be learning at that time within school.
Okay.
And so our approach would definitely be more on an individual basis for each child as to what would be looked at as far as programming or
their individual needs.
The individual needs of that student.
And Sue, did the school district in this area assimilate him into the classroom, or did you have special classes?
We had already accessed services long before we finally got a diagnosis. Okay. I first noticed there was something wrong probably when he was 9 months old. He didn't respond when I picked him up from daycare to my voice until he actually saw my face. So I had his hearing tested. That was my first thought. Maybe he doesn't hear me because he's not responding, you know, as my other children do and as most children do. Then we went to the genetic testing at the Mayo Clinic, and they couldn't exactly pinpoint anything. Thought maybe he had this disorder that would make him severely mentally retarded. He wasn't talking. He couldn't sit well with support even at a year.
So by the time he reached school age, you already had kind of a firm grasp on what he could and could not do. What was the school district's response to the special needs that perhaps he encountered?
He started school before he was 3. We started with the in-home program when he was 2. Because I work outside the home, they went to the daycare and worked with him at the daycare. Then shortly before he was 3, he went center base. So he went to school part-time 4 mornings a week. Did a lot of occupational therapy with him, which made tremendous gains. I mean, the occupational therapist would say, you know, this is so strange because this is a child, if he was with me, I was the rock, the safety net. He would climb up to those old metal swings at the old metal slides at Todd Park, rickety as can be, but yet he was afraid of stepping on a mat because of the difference in the texture and not sure where he was in space.
Just different perceptions.
Right. By 8th grade, they were just struggling. We'd pull him out for some services, which he didn't like. He'd lollygag about getting on the bus. He didn't want to go. He wouldn't do the clipboards or any of the other things that would have made his life easier because he was not going to do anything that made him look different.
Oh, sure. And that is a big component, isn't it? I'm sure you see that in the schools, is especially the children that are more on the Asperger's end. They want to be like the other kids. How do you help kids deal with that? Because it's generally the social piece, correct?
When you're looking at any child that is within the spectrum, and especially as you get to your high functioning and your Asperger's, the social skills really stand out. And so the development of goals to work on specific social skills, because you have to actually teach these students how to deal with social situations. It is not something they're going to go out and learn on their own.
We as a family would always prompt the social skills, and it was as basic as, you know, if you see your friends and they say hi to you, you have to look at them. You know, you can't look down. You have to look at them and say something back to acknowledge. I mean, it gets really basic.
And it has to be repetitive. It's not something you can work on Monday and not work on again until the next Monday. It is something that you have to work on daily, and you have to work on it in more than one site.
There's always going to be little things that upset them, okay? And what to us are little things are big things. When I rearrange the living room furniture, it is extremely distressing, okay? I still do it because it's good for him to experience some change. And reassure him that in a few days he will get used to it, but you know, you can just see the look on his face. It's very upsetting when I do those things.
And something that others might not instantly or intuitively recognize. Some of the research we did, there were some that were postulating that there is a cure for autism. Do you buy that argument, or is it simply a matter of repetitive education and helping these individuals become more functional?
I would say, you know, medically, I have not heard from medical doctors at this point in time that there is a definite cure. I think also it's an individual, based on every individual student as to how they progress and work. I think it is a key that we're providing these students with the tools they need in order to work after they leave high school, move into the work environment, or if we're looking at your higher functioning and Asperger students that are going on to school, that we give them the tools to do it and how to find and how to look at. I have a colleague that I work with whose son has been diagnosed with Asperger's, and he's in his 20s. And just listening to some of the same things as Sue has indicated that she has had to do with her child, but it was even actually finding the right job. It wasn't just being able to go into a job. He was very interested in the technology, the computer games. So he is now working at a computer store, selling games and being able to. So what it's given that child is the fact that, one, it gives him the clientele that come in that talk his language.
Right.
He can talk about his strengths and work within that. But as she said, he wouldn't be able then to take, because he's been in sales in this, and go to another store and sell car parts.
Right.
It is very much finding their niche in life and where they want to work.
Sue, what would you like the general public to know about?
Well, I think the general public has to realize that they're very concrete thinkers, okay? So what you say is going to be taken literally, okay? So you have to be careful with what you say. I was told a story of someone I know, and her son was arrested by an undercover agent in another community. Well, he didn't believe that the man was a policeman because he wasn't wearing a uniform and he didn't drive a police car.
Okay.
Okay? And that was not understood, of course, by law enforcement. That didn't make any sense to them. But yeah, the main thing is, you know, really, they are very concrete thinkers. And so they're going to take you at what you say, okay? Others, we need lots of services. Yeah, we do. We need, you know, work training. I know that, you know, vocational rehab can provide some support for people that are willing to do it. And there's some post-secondary support available if the person asks for it.
Well, ladies, thank you so much for shedding some light on kind of the world that they experience and what we can do to help incorporate them not only in our schools but in our communities as well. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Stay tuned for more on The Heart of the Matter.
As the incidence of autism increases, adult services for those diagnosed will also need to grow. A key component will be job training. Renowned autism advocate Dr. Temple Grandin gave some recommendations for some jobs which may be well suited to autistic workers. They include things like reshelving library books, making photocopies, or stacking boxes.
Ryan Peterson is an adult with autism. You might not notice it at first, but daily life can be a challenge. He and his mom, Mary Beth, talk about the roller coaster ride they are still on. Mary Beth, Ryan, thank you so much for letting us come to your home and visit with you about this subject. I'd like to start with you, Mary Beth, and tell me a little bit. You have 3 kids. Tell me when you knew that you had a child with special needs.
You know what? Probably at about 1.5 years. He was diagnosed with ADHD at 3, and yeah, we just kind of went from there. So he wasn't identified with autism until 6th grade, though.
Ryan, we're interested in exploring with you today is kind of what it's like to be an adult with autism, and we've talked a lot with some other folks about kind of the early years and the K-12 system and what happens in school. But you've graduated.
Yep.
So give us a sense of what your typical day is like.
If I don't work, I usually just sit here in my house, in my room.
Okay. What kinds of things are interesting to you? What do you like to do?
Hunt and fish, rollerblade, anything outside.
Okay, great. And you work, so you hold a job. Tell us about that.
Morning cook at Jerry's other place.
Okay. And how much time do you get to spend down there?
Quite a bit. Pretty much every day except for Tuesdays.
Okay, great.
And then some more days.
All right.
If they have to.
And Mary Beth, in terms of daily life, how did you notice that it changed? You know, Ryan's working and he went to school before, but what else might have changed in your daily life after he graduated from high school?
I think we kind of were more at the terms of letting him be home alone. We didn't let that happen for a long time. Also, though, looking at, okay, how is he going to get to work? And is he going to be on time for work every day? And is he going to, you know, eat? He's a big snacker. Will he eat decent? No. Just kind of that stuff, his daily living stuff, doing his laundry, taking care of his bedroom. All of those things that, as my other kids got older, they were just able to do that stuff on their own. Bank account, we do have guardian and conservatorship for him, just because he can blow through a paycheck like that.
But it's nice to have your own money, isn't it?
And he does get it, but yeah.
Okay. Did you notice any marked difference from the services that a school district would provide? Are there any agencies or organizations or clubs? Are there any social activities that are designed for friends of yours or folks that you'd want to hang out with in communities?
No, nothing. Nothing I know of.
Okay. All right. So what do you like to do for fun then? Do you have a chance to get together with others?
Not really.
Not really? Okay. And in terms of systems, Mary Beth, K-12 can often be comforting to have someone to turn to. What happens after graduation?
It's hard, and lots of people now are coming to me because they know that I've been through that system, but getting through like Social Security, finding things for him to do, health programs, those are all things that I've really had to do a lot of that investigating on my own, and I'm still struggling with some of it. I get stuff from Social Security all the time in the mail, and I look at it and go, I can't even figure this out. How could he figure it out if I wasn't helping him with it? So yeah, I've struggled within our community of finding things for him. Tried hooking up with the Department of Human Services, but they look at so many different things, and Ryan kind of fits that gray area that not totally eligible for a lot of services, and all of their funding, of course, is also being cut as well. So they're not going to look at him and go, hey, he needs a lot of funding.
Right, very capable individual, can hold a job, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. He looks normal, he walks normal, he talks normal, but that social communication piece is just not there. Does he go and advocate for himself? He's getting better at it, but he doesn't always let people know exactly what is difficult for him and what's not.
Now you guys explored some post-secondary options down in Iowa. Ryan, what did you think of that?
I really didn't like it.
How come?
Strict, the rules. I didn't really pay too much attention to the rules. I broke a lot of them.
All right. Did they seem to understand you? Do you think people understand what autism is?
They did. I don't know if anybody else does.
Brian, does life get easier? You know, sometimes it doesn't? Okay.
No, it doesn't.
Tell us why.
Everything stays the same. Nothing really has changed for me.
Okay. What would you like other people to know about autism? Or how should they interact with individuals with autism? What would make it easier?
I really...
You don't know what to say?
Oh.
Do you find people to be friendly? Would you like them to be more patient?
More patient, probably.
Okay.
Explain things better?
Yeah.
Ryan, what one thing would you like people to understand about autism?
You can't always blow up on people. They can't blow up on, let me rephrase that. They can't blow up on you because you will just shut down. Like if somebody starts yelling at me, you won't hear me.
Okay.
I'll be quiet for the rest of the day.
So what's a better way that they should communicate with you?
Just come up and be like, you really need to fix this. They can't just yell, like, you need to fix this right now. But you just need to fix it.
What kind of future goals or dreams do you have? What would you like to do down the road in a few years?
Oh, I've had so many of them. It changes every year.
Well, what is something that you've always wanted to do?
Be a welder.
Be a welder.
All right.
What else?
DNR officer.
DNR officer has been another option.
That's right, because you said you like to be in the outdoors. Okay. All right. And are there options available for that in terms of training, or have you explored any of that career development at all?
We were starting some of that down at the REACH program, but we just didn't get that far. And well, the DNR stuff, it's all the schooling that he would have to go to. Could he do school like a vocational or a 2-year college on his own? I don't think he could because of the help that he needed in high school with his IEP.
And what's on your wish list that would be helpful to others who come behind you that you wished you had coming through here, and especially now as you face some of these different challenges as having an adult?
More help with knowing the road that you have to go down after school is out. What to do with the different agencies and where the different agencies are, and how can you help. Like transportation is a big issue that we have with him. I would love to be able to find out how he could get to and from work every day and it be a reliable source and not have to take the cab, because for him to take the cab, he took it one day, it was $11 one way. So both ways, that's going to be $22 a day times 6, and that's a pretty big part of his paycheck. So I think just some of those unknowns, the things that I assume my other kids did, and they had no questions, but with him it's like getting to and from work, opening checking and savings accounts. My other kids did that all on their own. I've had to go and walk through all of that with them. So, and I think as kids that are growing up in the system in Austin, I think they are becoming more and more services that are available for them.
All right, well, thanks to parents like you guys who have kind of paved the way.
Well, I don't know if we've paved the way.
Finding your way.
Yeah, finding our way. It's been a battle. There's lots, I think, that I still don't know. It's always a new adventure.
It's always up and down.
Yep. It's our roller coaster ride. Yep. That's what we call it.
Very good. Well, good luck with that, and thank you so much for visiting with us today. Thank you for joining us tonight as we learned more about the diagnoses, treatments, and long-term care of individuals with autism. Join us Thursday, April 21st at 7 p.m. as we examine another compelling issue on the heart of the matter. With field reporter Donnie Rolls, I'm your host, Stephanie Passingham. Good night.